Good morning and welcome. Thank you all for being here for the State of the City Address. As I begin my service as mayor, I'm inheriting a wonderful tradition, and I'm honored to connect with you this morning and forge strong relationships going forward. The office of the mayor of the city of Santa Barbara stands ready to work with our esteemed chamber of the Santa Barbara region and your executive director, Kent Opplinger, and to support your important mission. To the employers, financial institutions, small businesses, and all the chamber members gathered here this morning, you have my utmost respect and commitment to help our business community be successful. We will do great things together. Today we have a new council to work on your behalf, and it's my privilege to introduce each of them. First, Councilmember Randy Rouse, serving as Mayor Pro Tem this year, Councilmember Greg Hart, Councilmember Jason Dominguez, and the newest members, Councilmember Kristen Sneddon and Eric Friedman. We are in the process of filling the west side seat on our city council, and until then, I will continue to respond directly to west side concerns. The election is on June 5th. I also want to introduce another group of hardworking individuals this morning, the city's department heads, and they're seated here in the crowd. Please welcome City Administrator Paul Casey, City Attorney Ariel Kalan, Assistant City Administrator Pam Antle, Fire Chief Pat McElroy, who's set to retire at the end of this month. Congratulations, Pat, I see you out there. Finance Director Robert Samario, Waterfront Director Scott Reedman, Public Works Director Rebecca Bjork, Community Development Director George Buell, Airport Director Hazel Johns, Administrative Services Director Christy Schmidt, Parks and Recreation Director Jill Zachary, Library Director Jessica Cariente, and Police Chief Lori Luno. And I know there's some other staff members out there. I see you. Everybody does such a good job for the city. Thank you. Since we were sworn in January, the new council has dealt with some significant issues, from cannabis business permitting to housing policy recommendations to the twin disasters of the Thomas Fire and the Montecito debris flow. We'll soon review our proposed budget this spring, and I'm confident that council will ensure spending priorities are in line with the community's needs. And I must acknowledge, as the other two speakers have, that we are all feeling the effects of the recent emergencies and the economic impact as well. Our prayers continue to be with families and friends who lost loved ones in Montecito. Blessings on the memories of the two children whose bodies have not been found. Out of tragedy and immense loss to so many residents, our tight-knit community came together to assist in every way possible. We are forever grateful to the amazing work of our first responders and search and rescue teams. Thank you for saving people's lives. City Public Works employees were also on scene immediately and stayed for weeks to handle widespread damage to the water system and streets. In unprecedented round-the-clock efforts, Caltrans cleared the freeway of mud, and County Flood Control and the Army Corps of Engineers cleared creeks and debris basins. Many in our community went above and beyond the call of duty to help. Hotels offered discounts or rooms for free to those who were displaced. Many individuals offered rooms in their homes. Restaurants provided free meals to evacuees. And students at Montecito Union School were accommodated in new temporary classrooms at Santa Barbara City College, McKinley School, the Santa Barbara Zoo, the Central Library, and Moxie. Counseling services, legal advice, and other technical assistance was provided to help people get back on their feet. Volunteers with the Santa Barbara Bucket Brigade have been working to clear mud and debris from private homes. Countless groups have thrown concerts and fundraisers to benefit those who are facing hardship from the Thomas Fire and mudslides. Events were planned to support local artisans and businesses who lost critical revenue due to the heavy smoke, evacuation, or mud damage. In our first video, you'll get to meet some unsung heroes and see how the community began its recovery.
Despite the tragic disasters that have taken place, one thing is certain. There is no shortage of people wanting to help. From businesses to individuals, people throughout our community are helping their neighbors. Take Mac Mechanic, a local PC and Mac computer repair business. After the disasters, they quickly realized they had a unique way of being able to help those in need.
These days, the things people are most heartbroken to lose in these disasters increasingly are digital assets, things like baby pictures, wedding photos, musical compositions, a novel somebody might have been working on for months or a year. That's really heartbreaking to lose, and we actually have the ability in some of these cases to salvage that information and get it back to people. If you've been in the room when we've been with one of these clients and we were able to tell them, guess what, we were able to get all this stuff, it's pretty obvious why we would decide to be a part of that. It's a pretty powerful thing to be a part of.
Mac Mechanic's generosity and hard work has already been a success, as they've been able to reunite dozens of individuals and businesses with irreplaceable data.
When a bucket brigade volunteer brought in a computer that they had just found out in the mud flow, they didn't have any information about whose it was, and they were hoping we could ascertain who the owner was. It had been sitting in the mud for a couple of weeks. We were able to find out whose it was. Unfortunately, it belonged to one of the mudslide victims who we had lost. We reached out to the family. That one definitely was pretty hard for everybody when we found out. We just had to remind each other that this is a positive thing, and we're able to hopefully get these memories back to a family that may be in mourning. So to be a part of that in whatever way we can, sort of a healing process after a disaster, that's definitely something that we want to be a part of.
Another individual saw many of her friends in need and wanted to find a way to bring them comfort.
After this happened, I felt really helpless. I thought, what can I do to help them? And an outfit is just super comforting to have after all this.
Together, Nicole Vinn and her mom Kimberly came up with Ensemble Boutique, a place for evacuees to shop for free from an assortment of items donated entirely by the community.
We've been calling it shopping therapy. People come here and they're just so thankful. It's really rewarding, but at the same time I just feel like I don't feel like I'm doing anything. I feel like I'm just doing what I should be doing.
Grassini Family Vineyards also wanted to do their part to help the community heal.
What we did is we opened our doors to everyone in the community, whether you are an evacuee or just someone who needed a place to go, and we just said, come on in, you don't have to buy wine, you don't even have to taste wine. At this point, people just needed a place to sit and literally recharge their phones and recharge their souls a little bit.
People in the community have also found ways to support local businesses that have been impacted by buying local. A variety of events have taken place around town that have become known as cash mobs.
The goal for the event is to infuse cash into as many businesses as possible, get as many people on the street shopping, going to their favorite places that they'd really be bummed about if 6 months from now wasn't here, and also to get them exploring and learning of new places.
After the Coast Village Road reopening, hundreds came out to participate in the cash mob. Local businesses are feeling the community's support, including one business owner who fed first responders for free before the debris flow.
Friday we opened. The reaction of the people was amazing. Everybody came to support us. Everybody were saying that we're okay, how's your employees? They all give you positive attitudes to keep going, and of course they always said we're gonna be here to support you a little bit, and so Friday was amazing. Then Saturday, following up on Saturday, it was just one of the busiest I ever see. And again, it was all families, it was all locals, it was all the community here to support us.
Whether you volunteer, donate, or simply plan a night out to your favorite local restaurant, there's an endless list of ways to support the community.
We are seeing a lot of the community come together and businesses supporting one another, locals really coming together to support the restaurants and the tourism partners that they can.
If the community see this video, I want to say thank you so much. Without you, we were not here, so I'm very, very proud to be part of this.
What's really incredible is that these are just a handful of so many individuals, businesses, and nonprofits that have reached out to their neighbors. This video is only a glimpse into the outpouring of generosity. Let's give these folks a hand. Thank you. We've learned a lot from these powerful incidents and how we're still at risk. The neighborhoods below the burned areas still face risk during a heavy rain for the next few winters until vegetation grows back. First and foremost, we are all vulnerable to natural disasters, and we need to take emergency preparation seriously. In a future event, we may not have time on our side for orderly evacuations, so the time to prepare is now. Another lesson is that we're seeing the effects of climate change right in our backyard, and severe drought conditions and high fire season all year round. Low probability events are happening far more frequently. To put things in perspective, it's now early March and we're at 25% of a normal year's rainfall. Lake Cachuma is about 40% full. Our ongoing drought condition is a slowly unfolding emergency incident on its own. Fortunately, the desal plant is in full operation and desalinated ocean water is flowing into the city's distribution system. The facility uses state-of-the-art technology and design practices to reduce electrical demand and environmental impacts while providing a critical water supply for the city. With the help of state water and supplemental purchases, we will have sufficient supplies through 2019. Drinking water has been conserved through creative use of recycled water and water-wise landscaping in public areas, homes, and businesses. We're in this together, and kudos to all of you who have made water conservation a top priority. I'm pleased to announce that Mission Linen is this year's water hero after successfully reducing their water usage by 5 million gallons a year. How about that? They did it by adjusting their washing procedure. Moving forward, our drought conditions will require constant focus and attention from the community and City Council. Conservation is one of many ways the city is becoming more resilient and taking action to protect the natural environment. With the goal of powering our community with 100% renewable energy by the year 2030, we're exploring different options for community choice energy. In this model, Southern California Edison would continue to be responsible for the electrical transmission and infrastructure, and government agencies would take on the responsibility of purchasing electricity and increasing our portfolio of renewables. Streetlights are one of the city's largest single users of energy, and the majority were converted to energy-efficient LEDs last year. The new fixtures provide improved light quality and neighborhood security. Through energy retrofits and innovative renewable projects, the city now saves $550,000 a year on its electric bill. Beyond environmental stewardship and resiliency, one of the highest priorities for the city and other business organizations is improving our economic vitality. Strong economic development is a long-term goal, and short-term, we must help our region recover from the fire and debris flow incidents. As you know, the emergencies were devastating to local businesses, affecting the community during the holiday season, when businesses take in revenue that usually carries them through leaner months. These incidents have created more urgency and opportunities for us to partner with one another to improve our economic climate. We learned firsthand how much we depend on the 101 freeway that really serves as a lifeline to our region, allowing employees, supplies, and visitors to reach us. Visit California has estimated that Santa Barbara County lost almost $1 million a day due to the freeway closure. Dramatic videos and photos of flames and mud reached a worldwide audience, and we now need to change that perception. We must be creative in sending the message that Santa Barbara is open for business with clear skies and the natural beauty that defines us. In our next video, you'll learn how Visit Santa Barbara and community partners are shifting strategies to keep Santa Barbara a top destination for tourists.
With the Thomas Fire incidents, the city, Visit Santa Barbara, and business organizations are focused on ensuring one of our main economic drivers thrives: tourism.
We were facing a lot of cancellations immediately, but we also started to learn of cancellations further down the road.
Unfortunately, you're still seeing some group event cancellations and those kinds of things because people just aren't sure what's going to happen. Typically, Santa Barbara in the summer, while not automatic, is a fairly easy sell. This year is going to be different as we need to convince people that we are still here and we're still the same as we've always been.
Our challenge was how to strike this delicate balance of demonstrating support for this unprecedented tragedy while communicating that Santa Barbara hotels, restaurants, and attractions were open for business.
Recent incidents compelled Visit Santa Barbara to rethink its marketing strategies.
Drawing upon lessons from our colleagues in Sonoma, Las Vegas, and Puerto Rico, and others, and also in collaboration with our marketing partners, we outlined a three-phased approach to tourism recovery. The first phase is information and impact assessment. The second is welcoming visitors back to Santa Barbara. And third is rebuilding our long-haul business.
Our entire business community has been affected by these disaster incidents, and the hospitality industry especially.
As part of the assessment phase, Visit Santa Barbara convened a community tourism recovery forum.
And this allowed our stakeholders to also share ideas and to hear our tourism recovery strategies, both from Visit California as well as Visit Santa Barbara.
And we want to be a partner in the recovery of these efforts long term. We're still not out of the woods yet, but we know that if we stand together, we stand stronger. And Visit California is there to extend the voice of the people of Santa Barbara in welcoming visitors throughout the world. It's an iconic destination. It's a gem for California.
There's a lot of good news to tell, and we're telling it together. So it's a positive time. I really feel it. And you can tell just from the noise in the background, all the people from all over the place that are here that want to do the same thing.
Getting together as a community also meant creating a unified message.
There is a great kind of a collaboration going on between all the organizations, and we've seen that coming together to pool resources, talk to each other.
Visit Santa Barbara initiated marketing strategies with the goal of reaching the important drive market. These efforts paid particular attention to the 24 million people in Southern California, telling them Santa Barbara was open for business.
The Southern California market is the largest percentage of visitors that travel to Santa Barbara, and they are the most likely to return to Santa Barbara in the short term.
In addition to all the cooperation and assistance within the industry, the city allowed hotels to defer monthly TOT payments to free up cash flow.
My general manager called me, and I came in and she said, look what we got. And it was, from being in just a place of real stress. We're a family-owned business, independently owned, and I know a lot of businesses and hotels downtown and even retail are in the same spot. You're stretched, and to have that, just that grace, to give us some more time to pay our TOT made a huge difference. It was like the sun came out.
I also think that it's created a better partnership between business and the city because we all realize that we kind of sink or swim together. And so that's been a positive that's come out of this as well.
Although we're trending in the right direction, Visit Santa Barbara and all the partners will stay diligent in promoting the Santa Barbara region to the world.
I want to thank Visit Santa Barbara and their partners in the hospitality industry for quickly adapting to changing conditions. Aside from bringing visitors to Santa Barbara, the purchasing power of our own residents is really the key to economic resiliency. The locally owned shops and restaurants that make Santa Barbara a unique experience need support from residents first and foremost. Buying at local shops is a win-win for all of us. We've already seen the effects of changing retail behavior with chain stores closing across the country. As we now recover from recent incidents, it's even more important to shop local. To improve the economic vitality of each area of the community, the city is committed to working with all stakeholders. What's really important is being aware of how each of our businesses and organizations is contributing to the community and being attentive to our respective roles to enhance the economy. If you're a property owner, business owner, commercial broker, or lender, you play a huge role in deciding the future of our retail experience and the selection of stores. A significant role the city has played is investing in the cultural arts economy. Over the years, the city has granted more than $8 million to renovate performing arts theaters to draw people downtown for a variety of events. On top of this funding, the city contributes more than $700,000 each year to arts organizations to ensure events and festivals remain a success. We saw a great example a month ago when the Film Festival hosted films and panels in downtown theaters. This funding also helps emerging arts groups create fresh and family-friendly attractions like Puppet Palooza. We've also leased city property at no cost to the Community Arts Workshop that hosts events and exhibits for arts organizations, and to Moxie, providing space for science and technology activities. Investing in arts and cultural activities spurs not only ticket sales, but also translates to additional spending on dining and shopping, and even overnight hotel stays. And we're excited to announce that sculptures are returning to State Street next month. Our goal is to feature local artists and add visual appeal so the downtown experience is more dynamic. And I found out this morning that artists have already been selected, and the opening reception is set for the first Thursday in April, and that's April 5th. With bustling activity in the Funk Zone and the Hotel California now open, yay, we want to build a better connection between Lower State Street and the rest of downtown so people are inspired to walk through the underpass. The city is now reimagining the State Street underpass with arts, elements, lighting, sound, and a new traffic configuration, all to attract visitors and draw more pedestrian traffic. In November, we hosted a public design workshop and received ideas from a few hundred people. All the comments and suggestions are on the city's website, in addition to a Pinterest page with examples from cities around the world that redesigned their public spaces and transportation corridors to be more inviting. What we heard from you is that with 4 vehicle lanes and a median, we need to allocate more space for pedestrians and bikes. With much larger vision and design, there's so much potential to create a must-see destination. From here, we're partnering with local arts organizations, architects, and designers to prepare an official call for proposals to create a unique space that fits our needs. There are many other efforts underway to revitalize commercial areas as well. To help pedestrians and drivers move around the city, wayfinding signage was installed to direct people to parking and other points of interest. These signs have added a polished look to our streets. We're also creating a more inviting experience through a new group of city ambassadors and police volunteers to deal with a wide range of issues in the downtown core. In this video, you'll learn how these dedicated staff and volunteers greet visitors and handle everything from inappropriate behavior to maintenance issues.
How's it going today?
The need for a public safety presence on State Street runs the spectrum, from simple directions to dealing with homeless issues to actual crime. But while sworn police officers are happy to help tourists with directions, it's not exactly the most efficient use of their time.
Obviously, it would be ideal to have police, down here 24/7 walking around. It's just not feasible for the requirements that we have throughout the city.
To increase the public safety presence downtown while at the same time freeing up sworn police officers so they can focus on crime, the city has come up with a colorful solution: specialized teams tasked with addressing the unique needs of Lower State Street.
It's been a response to community and business concerns, and we've experimented with it for a number of years and trying to find the right combination.
That combination comes in the form of color-coded teams responding to specific areas of concern.
That place needs to be squirted off every day almost.
At one end of the spectrum are the red-shirted ambassadors.
We're customer service for State Street. We interact with transients, locals, tourists, students. There's a lot of foreign students down here, and then merchants. And really, I think of a lot of it is trying to keep things so that they're kind of tidy and functional for merchants, because there's just issues with different people sitting around and things. So we try to keep things cool and clean.
2 ambassadors patrol downtown between Sola and the Wharf from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. 7 days a week. They communicate with downtown businesses on a continual basis and solve problems arising from nuisance behaviors in a friendly manner.
So I find if you're trying to enforce something, it always works better to chat people up a little bit first and then tell them why you're there, what you're trying to get them to comply with. Okay. Thank you. You're welcome.
Another contingent of the downtown public safety team is the yellow-shirted community service liaisons.
And their job is to really try to reduce calls for service in both of those areas, by trying to find solutions to immediate problems. And so they deal with a lot of low-level issues and trying to fix those so that the police do not have to respond.
How you doing today?
Community service liaisons address nuisance behavior and help connect the homeless with social services. But to get the homeless to accept help isn't easy. It requires trust.
Sometimes it's just getting to know me. They'll see me coming. They'll see the yellow shirt. Oh, here comes Chuck. We're out of here. So it's presence and relationships.
And relationships are built with the business community as well.
How you doing?
I met him obviously working here during the day, okay, and we had a discussion about how much, you know, with our problem of the homeless here, that we need a caring solution, and not realizing what he did at first, and then now I know exactly what he does. This guy's a hero.
New additions to the public safety presence downtown are the gray-shirted volunteers in policing, or VIPs.
It's a cross-section of retired folks and some currently employed people that want to give back to the community. They're helping us with the foot patrol downtown. We're using them throughout the agency, but where they're most visible right now is downtown.
We help people, we connect with business people, we connect with the public and help people and support people where we can. We're also keenly aware of their safety, so we do give warnings about skateboarders. Same with bikers who bike on the sidewalk. That again is a violation.
Restorative police officers work with the homeless to connect them with services in lieu of jail time.
And they are working with our most chronic folks to try to capture that window in time where that particular person is interested in getting help. And so it's getting to know those people, developing a relationship with them, and when they do want that help, being able to efficiently put them into some type of service, whether it could be housing or a job market or trying to get sober.
How long has it been since you were homeless? That's like 10 years, right?
By steering receptive clients into restorative court, the officers keep the homeless out of the penal system, saving taxpayer dollars.
I am not here to sustain people in a low level of function. I'm here to help them raise up into the next level and the next level and kind of break the barriers for the things that are in the way for them to go there.
The new, more visible combination of public safety teams downtown has improved customer service and increased responsiveness to maintenance and nuisance issues. The dedicated ambassadors, community service liaisons, volunteers in policing, and restorative police officers are on the street every day, making sure things are cool and clean while being firm but friendly.
How you doing, Mike? Love those dogs.
So far, the presence of public safety officers is making a difference in addressing downtown concerns. Their problem-solving adds to the work of restorative police officers, as you saw in the video, who help chronically homeless individuals take firm steps towards self-sufficiency. In the last 4 years, the restorative policing team helped to reunify 562 clients with friends and family or place them in housing, detox, or support services. We're also exploring ideas to include medical professionals with teams of police officers to provide treatment for the mentally ill as they respond to service calls. With the new approach, we can help more people receive medical care and ensure commercial areas are more inviting. And finally, on this subject, the Central Coast Collaborative on Homelessness, or C3H, has transitioned to the Home for Good program and has launched a coordinated entry function as well as a shared database. This will help homeless service providers do their work and get people off the street. Another element critical to our economic vitality is keeping the lights on and cash registers running. At the urging of council and local business leaders, Southern California Edison has undertaken a 4-year project to upgrade very old electrical infrastructure, and you've probably seen this work underway with some lane closures downtown. After a few years of community discussion, the zoning ordinance was restructured to be more modern and easier to understand. The new ordinance provides more flexibility and staff authority to approve minor items. And last year, the city also addressed the growing number of vacancies downtown. Along State Street, 27 spaces are vacant or visibly dark to the person who would walk by on the street. To speed up tenant improvements and occupy space faster, the city rolled out a new Accelerate program for buildings on State Street between Cabrillo and Sola. Businesses that are redesigning their exterior or planning building improvements receive first priority for design review and building plan review. In the first 6 months, we've seen significant improvements in the turnaround time, with wait time down 30% for construction plans and 38% for design review approvals. Ultimately, new businesses can fill vacant spaces faster. In our commercial corridors, there is good news to report for some of the largest vacancies. First, the city will finally be home to a new Target that's planned for the former Galleria building at the corner of State and La Cumbre. As a sign that we're now entering a new chapter in the retail world, Target selected a much smaller space than their traditional stores. The new store concept will provide a customized selection of items and allow you to pick up orders after you've made purchases online. Turning to the downtown area, we're pleased that the remaining lease term on the Macy's building has been purchased by Pacific Retail Partners, which operates Paseo Nuevo. They're welcoming new retail and mixed-use concepts for this downtown site. The city is looking forward to working with Pacific Retail on a high-quality development in this space, and plans are already underway to enhance Paseo Nuevo in general, with new landscaping and kids features, furniture, and lighting in dark areas. The Saks Fifth Avenue building has been purchased by Michael Rosenfeld, who most recently developed the Hotel Californian project on Lower State. The Saks lease has been extended a year, preventing another large vacancy on State Street. Preliminary discussions are currently underway for a mixed-use housing project at this site. This is the same development team behind a new mixed-use project at the former Cravioto property at the corner of Ortega and Anacapa. Also downtown, Arlington Plaza on Chapala will soon be finished with 33 units of rental housing. With all of these projects moving forward, we hope these large-scale investments will breathe fresh life into downtown. At the forefront of envisioning housing downtown are Santa Barbara's architects and community planners. Last October, the Architects Association hosted a design charrette where 60 architects, planners, and landscape architects rolled up their sleeves to identify new possibilities, block by block, for housing, parking, and pedestrian pathways. They had some great ideas for council to consider, from developing downtown parking lots for housing opportunities to closing areas of State Street over time once a critical mass of people live downtown to improve pedestrian comfort and circulation. Key among their recommendations was adding new housing for all income levels, above and behind retail spaces. For the past year, I've been part of a housing task force to review ways to encourage the development of workforce housing and be more flexible with parking requirements. The city has an average unit size density incentive program to encourage smaller units with a reduced parking requirement. Council recently reviewed several recommendations from the Housing Task Force that aim to create more housing units citywide and provide more community benefits at the same time. We look to our new car sharing program to help lessen some of the parking demand. The city partnered with Zipcar to add to your transportation choices so you can reserve a car whenever you need it and have a guaranteed street parking space once returned. Having more housing downtown will help us rebalance the retail mix toward residential needs as residents spend money on their day-to-day activities in their immediate neighborhood. And this is where the larger store spaces like Macy's and Saks are strong candidates for more housing downtown. We've heard the same message from many community leaders, from the high-tech to the hospitality industry, that a significant challenge for doing business in Santa Barbara is hiring and retaining employees who can afford to live here. And as I've often said, building housing will take courage. To expand our housing supply over the next several years, it will take not only private investment, but creativity, sensitivity to neighborhood character, and community support. Based on a new state requirement, the city is proposing new local regulations to provide additional rental housing in residential zones. The new housing will consist of accessory dwelling units, or granny flats, which include a garage or basement conversion or a detached unit that's part of a primary residence. It's estimated that this law will add additional units to the rental housing market. to provide more assistance and tools for renters, Council recently took action to start the development of two new efforts. First, we're developing a tenant displacement program to provide financial assistance to renters facing mass evictions. Second, we're preparing an educational component within our existing rental housing mediation program to help tenants and landlords understand their rights and responsibilities. Beyond the South Coast, we have thousands of employees commuting from Ventura County, and I'm excited that together with regional partners, we're piloting a new early morning Amtrak train service to reduce vehicle trips and congestion on the 101. Thank you to former Mayor Helene Schneider for serving on LOSAN, the Joint Powers Authority overseeing rail service, and for pushing for this commuter train service for so many years. I saw you earlier, Helene. Thank you very much. We learned how well it worked when the freeway closed recently, right? The new early morning service complements the existing afternoon and evening departures, and MTD has coordinated with the train schedule to provide last mile shuttle to connect to various workplace destinations. You can also download a new MTD app to your smartphone that will help you plan trips, locate nearby bus stops and routes, and track current bus locations. The airport is also making it easier for you to get in and out of town. Passenger capacity grew as 3 major airlines increased available seats departing from Santa Barbara, and overall passenger traffic grew by almost 8%. You can reach Seattle, Portland, San Francisco, Denver, and Dallas on larger aircraft now. And now I'd like to introduce City Administrator Paul Casey, who will give you an outlook on the city's financial condition. I'll be right back.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Kathy. The City of Santa Barbara is a full-service city that provides a wide variety of municipal services that promote the health and safety of the community, as well as enhance the quality of life for our residents, employees, and visitors. We have an overall total budget of just over $350 million, comprised of $318 million in an operating budget and a $33 million capital budget across all of our funds. We have total staff of over 1,500 employees, with 1,030 full-time employees and another 500 hourly employees across 11 departments. The city operates through 2 key budget approaches. We have a general fund that covers basic governmental operations like police, fire, libraries, parks and recreation activities, and they're all supported by general tax revenues. We also have enterprise funds that are special funds that are self-supporting and operate as their own financial entities, and they don't get any support from general taxes or the general fund, and instead rely solely on their own revenue income to support their activities. Most of our enterprise funds are in sound financial shape, so today I'll focus on the general fund condition and some of the challenges and opportunities that exist there. First, some highlights of the general fund. The general fund is in good financial shape, but it is facing some challenges looking forward. Revenues have been good, but are showing some signs of softening. But reserves are replenished and at full policy levels. The city, as well as most municipalities across the state, are faced with rising pension costs over the next 5+ years. On the capital and infrastructure side, we are very fortunate that we had the community support to make a substantive investment in that by passing of Measure C. I'd now like to talk about each of those in a little bit more detail. From a revenue standpoint, the general fund is supported by 3 main revenue sources: property tax, sales tax, and transient occupancy tax, or the bed tax. Property taxes have been a steady revenue source for the city over the past few years. With the real estate market still pretty stable right now, we expect property tax revenue to continue to grow in the 5% range going forward. One interesting note is that the city receives about 13% of every dollar paid in property tax. The remainder goes to schools, City College, the county, and other special districts. One of local government's traditional revenue sources is the sales tax. Sales tax growth has not kept up with overall economic activity. And as you can see, starting in 2015, the growth rate slowed considerably, and it's been relatively flat for a number of years. And we're only projecting growth of 1% to 2% over the next few years, and even that may prove to be optimistic. This is a state and nationwide trend on sales tax growth, with a variety of factors contributing to the situation: more online shopping, the decline of large department stores, a low inflationary environment, and a trend more towards experience over traditional retail, something that we see locally with the success of the Funk Zone as one example. With regards to the impact of online sales, we estimate that the city of Santa Barbara alone is losing close to $1.5 million per year. On top of that, we are estimating a loss of at least $1 million from the slowdown due to the Thomas fire and the subsequent debris flow and freeway closure. But before we leave the sales tax discussion, I'd like to talk about infrastructure investment, because for 10 years we've been talking to you all at these events about critical infrastructure needs that the city is facing. We've estimated a total shortfall of $540 million over the next 20 years, which comes to be about $27 million per year. I want to thank the community, and today especially, I want to thank the business community and the Chamber of Commerce for recognizing the need and supporting Measure C, which passed in November. The 1-cent sales tax goes into effect April 1st, no joke, and will raise about $22 million per year. The City Council has already adopted a priority plan on spending, which the mayor will speak to next, and has initiated the recruitment process for an oversight committee, and we will be preparing an annual accountability report on its expenditures. Our transient occupancy tax, or bed tax, has been very strong since 2010, although the last few years we've hit a plateau for a couple of reasons. One being the phasing out of most short-term vacation rental operations in the city and the associated revenue that had come from that. The other being a general breather of increases in occupancy and rates. The rate of increase in bed tax from 2010 to 2016 could not be expected to be sustained, and the sector remains strong and well-positioned going forward. We have seen a boost in bed tax from the successful reopening of the Santa Barbara Inn and the grand opening of the Hotel California at the end of last summer. Michael Rosenfeld and his team deserve a lot of credit for opening such a beautiful and high-class facility in the heart of the waterfront. And the community deserves a lot of credit for living through 20 years of plot twists and turns to seeing this part of town finally come to life. It's a relief not to have to talk about what's going on with Entrada ever again. For bed tax, the impact of the Thomas fire, debris flow, and the freeway closure is interesting. We saw a 25% decline in December from the fire, smoke, and ash events, but then a 22% increase in January due to the high occupancy rates from first responders in the community who needed to evacuate. Thank you to the hotel industry for assisting the community during that stressful time by putting out a welcome mat, offering local discounts to evacuees, and replanning events and other visiting groups. Overall, we have had a number of impacts from the events on our city budget. We have close to $2 million in direct emergency response costs from fire, police, water, streets, and public information staff. We also had some damage to city property, most notably the loss of capacity in Gibraltar Reservoir from additional silt and mud, as well as the increased cost of treating that water. The city is eligible to pursue reimbursement for some of these costs from FEMA and the state, and we hope to get 94% reimbursed for the direct emergency response and cleanup cost. However, we do not expect to get reimbursed for the loss in revenue from a number of areas, including the sales tax, which I already mentioned. And we could end up losing close to $2 million in revenue from these events. We also experienced losses in downtown parking, waterfront, and parks and recreation activities, to name a few. I also don't expect us to get much relief from the loss of water storage capacity at Gibraltar, and that's a big blow as we continue to face this most serious drought. In response to these losses, we will likely have to look at using some of our city reserves. Fortunately, as I mentioned, we are fully funded in those reserves for the second year in a row with over $30 million in general fund reserves for emergency and budget contingency purposes. This type of one-time event hit on revenues is the exact sort of situation you have reserves for. I now want to talk briefly about pensions. I realize this has been a continuing theme for a number of years now, but I feel an obligation to discuss it as it is an important budget issue. I also expect you're going to see a good deal of discussion on pensions statewide over the next year or two, and want to let you know that the City of Santa Barbara is positioned to deal with the increased cost and is planning for it. The city is a member of the statewide CalPERS system, and CalPERS has made a number of fiduciary changes to the way they run the retirement program to shore up its fiscal status. They are prudent, appropriate moves, in my opinion, and include lowering the discount rate, or the assumed investment returns they expect to make going forward, from 7.75% to 7% over the coming years. They also reevaluated the mortality rate of their participants and have set up a plan to recover investment losses from the stock market crash of 2008. What that means, though, is they are requiring increased payments into the system from employers. We calculate that the city's pension cost will increase over $3 million per year by fiscal year 2021. We have a plan in place to address this, including limiting overall wage increases to modest levels, talking with employee bargaining units about increased cost sharing, and managing our budget prudently. It can be managed, we will be okay, but it is a headwind from a budget perspective, especially in a revenue climate that's not growing as strong as historically have been the case in good economic times. Before I wrap up, I would like to mention that the city is committed to openness and transparency in our budgeting process. And we have a tool on our website called OpenGov. It allows for online access to 4 years of prior revenues and expenditures and the ability to analyze the city's financial data through a number of filters. Please check it out if you're interested. And finally, my little moment of reflection. As a public management professional, I just want to acknowledge the cooperation and coordination that occurred from a governmental standpoint to get most of Montecito back up and running in such a short period of time, from an event that completely destroyed almost every public utility and infrastructure in many portions of Montecito. The coordination it took to conduct search and rescue efforts, clear debris, open roads and freeways, repair water, wastewater, electricity, gas, and cable systems that were completely destroyed in numerous areas, all at the same time, with assistance from each and every local government agency on the South Coast, plus agencies from across the state coming in with assistance, with public agencies and the public utilities and private utilities all working together. It really was a remarkable effort and a testament to government at its best, in my mind. And I want to take this opportunity to publicly thank and congratulate city staff for all the work and effort they did and all the other people who contributed to that effort. With that, I will welcome the mayor back.
We're grateful that the community took bold action last November to approve a local 1-cent sales tax to maintain streets and renovate essential community buildings to meet today's needs. We are now more resilient going into the future with a local revenue source that cannot be taken away by the state or federal government. I'm proud to be the first mayor who gets to talk about our plan. For the next quarter, Council has approved $5 million in funding for street reconstruction efforts. This is a top priority since many city roads are in poor condition. Now that we have a stable source of revenue, our community can move beyond quick fixes and make the more expensive repairs that are urgently needed. As we work through the city, even neighborhood streets will get repaired after being neglected for so long. Over a 20-year period, we'll be able to repave virtually every street in the city. The core public safety facilities are also in dire need, such as our police building. At the top of a long list of challenges, this building on Figueroa Street does not meet seismic safety standards. And while we don't expect a full building collapse in an earthquake, it would not be functional when we need it at most. Fire stations are also outdated, and we want to make sure neighborhood fire stations are upgraded to meet the needs of emergencies that we are now seeing far too often. And there are many more facilities that need upgrades, such as our central library, which just celebrated 100 years of serving the public and is a resource to thousands each year with large events, family activities, and high-tech computer science lessons. There are many opportunities to restore and adapt the building to meet 21st century demands and growing numbers of library patrons. Children and families can check out the renovated Kids World at Alameda Park. Originally constructed by community volunteers, the playground was recently renovated with structural improvements and more secure play areas, enclosures so the kids can't get away. Thanks to a fundraising partnership with the Park Foundation, the restoration of the Cabrillo Arts Pavilion and Bathhouse is now underway. This well-loved facility is home to not only weddings and special events, but locker room facilities for athletes on the ground floor. These are examples of older, underutilized buildings that can live up to their true potential with the help of public-private partnerships. Nearby, the Cabrillo Ball Field improvements are under construction with turf and irrigation upgrades, renovated park entry points at Milpas and Cabrillo, an outdoor strength and fitness circuit, pedestrian lighting, landscaping and trees, and a renovated restroom. We just started construction on the new sidewalks on Lower Milpas, so East Side residents will have an easier time reaching the waterfront area. This is one of several neighborhood projects completed with transportation funds we secured from the state to improve pedestrian and bike safety. On the east side, new pedestrian and bicycle bridges are almost complete on Cacique and Soledad streets. This project will improve the daily walking and biking experience for youth who attend Franklin, Adelante, and Cleveland elementary schools and their families. Improving the connection for East Side residents to reach downtown, we just unveiled the city's first protected bike lane on Coda Street between Chapala and Milpas streets. We have some bike enthusiasts here, I love it. On the west side, we completed a bike lane on Rancheria Street to better connect the west side to City College, the Mesa, and the beach. These are all projects outlined in the Bicycle Master Plan to provide safer infrastructure for cyclists, pedestrians, and drivers alike. Along Lacumba Road, we've completed one phase and starting the next phase of new sidewalks and crossing beacons this summer to create a safe pedestrian route, completing the sidewalk network to La Colina Junior High, Hope Elementary, and Bishop Diego. If we look at public safety in our neighborhoods, the overall crime rate continues to be low, and property crimes in particular are down by 8% from last year. And our community is taking a leadership role in reducing gun violence. The police department partnered with the Coalition Against Gun Violence, a nonprofit, to hold an event last year where we collected 179 unwanted firearms, lowering the risk of homicide, suicide, and deadly accidents. Working with the coalition, our city's youth council is currently planning an event for families to share ideas on gun violence and school safety. This is in response to the Parkland, Florida shooting. On the other end of the spectrum, the city has been focused on addressing several low-level nuisance activities to improve neighborhood quality of life. A concern that gained a lot of attention is late-night loud party behavior adjacent to Santa Barbara City College. To help, and you know who you are, to help late-night partiers tone down the noise, we introduced a new Student Neighborhood Assistance Program, or SNAP, where students are able to quickly respond to noise violations instead of redirecting police officers from other safety priorities in the city. After receiving hundreds of comments from the public, Council enacted a policy to join cities in our region to ban smoking in public areas. And our last video will describe how the new law will reduce litter, prevent fires, and limit exposure to secondhand smoke.
Whether you're walking down State Street, having lunch on a patio, or strolling along the beach, you've probably seen someone smoking a cigarette. That's a sight you will see less of in Santa Barbara. After months of discussion and public input, the City Council unanimously voted to adopt a new ordinance that bans smoking in public places.
I think they've come up from a public health perspective with a very far-reaching ordinance. They're basically saying you can't smoke in public. And what's very exciting about that is we join almost the entire south coast of California.
Smoking is defined to include tobacco, marijuana, and electronic vaping devices.
With this new law in place, what that means for the public is that smoking is no longer allowed in public areas. So this includes sidewalks in commercial and residential areas, parks, beaches, Stearns Wharf, the harbor walkways, outdoor recreational areas, outdoor plaza areas of the library. It also includes city-owned public parking structures, parking lots, and paseos that lead to the downtown area. It also includes outdoor dining areas before 10 p.m.
Restaurants can, however, choose to allow smoking after 10 p.m. Other areas where smoking will still be allowed includes bar patios at all hours. This new law was developed to address problems and concerns of Santa Barbara residents and businesses in relation to smoking, with one of the major issues being the impact it has on our environment.
Cigarette butts can be pretty damaging to the ocean environment. You'd think that they're just an extension of kind of like the paper portion of the cigarette, but they're actually made of plastic. So they're these tiny pieces of plastic that end up in the sand, they end up in our creeks and streams, they end up in our estuaries, and eventually we all know now that it is going out to the ocean at some point. The last cleanup that we did, Coastal Cleanup Day, just at East Beach, there were 1,300 cigarette butts that we picked up in a span of just 3 hours.
What I see walking around the harbor here is a lot of cigarette butts on the sidewalks. Those are right 3 feet away from our harbor. Those get pushed, they get windblown, they get thrown into the water, and that water goes out into our oceans. We have local seafood living and thriving here in Santa Barbara in our channel, and all those cigarette butts go out into that channel.
By adopting this ordinance, the city hopes to not only see a major reduction in the amount of cigarette butts that end up in our streets, creeks, and beaches, but also a reduced risk to public safety in the way of fires, particularly on Stearns Wharf.
The entire wharf is made out of wood, and so fire is a big concern with the cigarettes as well when people discard them and they smolder and can cause fires.
Unfortunately, fires caused by cigarettes on the wharf are all too common, including 3 that happened in just one day this past spring. Going forward, the city is actively working to inform the public of the ordinance through programs like the Ambassadors on State Street and Volunteers in Policing, who interact with residents and visitors on a daily basis.
When we see people smoking, we approach them and respectfully ask them to stop smoking. Gratifyingly have 99% compliance so far. People are very good about understanding why this ordinance came about.
The city will use verbal warnings and public education as the primary means of enforcement. It's up to each of us to understand the law and smoke away from public areas. By making Santa Barbara smoke-free, the city hopes to provide a healthy, family-friendly, clean environment for both residents and visitors.
We get tourists from all over the world here. It is a pristine area. You know, it's beautiful Santa Barbara, God's country, right? And when there's cigarette smoke, people are inhaling that, they're smelling that, and it affects the experience. And we are a beautiful location. We have beautiful beaches, we have beautiful trees, flowers, and that smoke has a negative effect.
We are installing signage in late spring, and you can pick up no smoking decals outside to display in your window. In relation to cannabis, Council conducted a full public process to determine local regulations for the commercial cannabis industry. We established a website and application process to assist those interested in starting a cannabis business. Applications will be evaluated through specific criteria established by the City Council. And later this year, Council will be discussing its laws related to alcohol sales. Easy access to large containers of alcohol can lead to an increase in public intoxication and inappropriate behavior on our public streets. So we are reviewing how we can further regulate stores that sell alcohol for off-premise use beyond what is currently under state law. And again, I'm proud of our Youth Council for supporting these regulations. Their goal is to prevent teen binge drinking and ensure responsible sales of alcohol in our community. This morning, I'm proud to share our achievements of the past 12 months, as well as some of the most pressing issues facing our city. In a time of crisis, we've seen an outpouring of generosity, and our community spirit has not been broken. To the contrary, we now know our strength. It's an honor to serve as your new mayor, and I'm committed to creating jobs and housing opportunities as part of my public service. When I talk to my friends and neighbors, they tell me how joyful and happy they are to live in Santa Barbara. As long as they have a steady income and a place to live, they're happy. So please help me achieve these goals, and let me know how I can work with you. The mayor's office and our business community can be effective partners, improving the quality of life for city residents and those living on the South Coast and beyond. Let's work together on business recovery and long-term economic development. Let's take care of our natural environment and lend support to our nonprofits, schools, and churches. Our undocumented workforce is an integral part of our economy. We know that. Let's create opportunities for everyone. I invite any of you who don't know me to make an appointment. I want to hear your concerns and ideas, even your criticisms of city government. We share a common goal of improving our economic vitality and the personal well-being of all the members of our community. Thank you very much. Thank you.